Greetings and salutations, fellow vengeance. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by Vengeance.
Hello.
It's the boy, and this is the Two Nerds Podcast. Today we're talking about vengeance.
And you could be cool like Rob, a guy from Ohio, or Jesse OWCH. The rest of the spiel is now in the big ticker at the bottom of the screen. Let's talk about Batman. Or, more specifically, the Batman. Like the Iron Bull, the article is apparently important.
It is, if you don't know, listener, I know you know, a callback to the pre-60s, mid-60s Batman used the definite article.
Yeah, it did.
And that's actually how he was originally conceived. And let me tell you, that big fucking impact font ass title card, I liked it.
It didn't fuck around. The movie starts with just the words "The Batman" in giant fucking Irkutsk, double Irkutsk, screen-filling font.
It was really good. The title card. That's my review of the title card. I guess we should do the spoiler-free review version.
Yeah, because it's actually quite a new movie.
Compared to our usual reviews.
Yeah, compared to the usual. We'll get to it when we get to it.
It's been a couple of weeks, but still.
Spoiler-free review of the Batman. This might surprise you, listener. I actually wasn't amazingly excited to go see this movie. For a lot of reasons, I'll get into them later. But, I was dumb and wrong. This is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, and again, I'll get in more in-depth on this later, but, barring The Dark Knight, which I cannot judge appropriately anymore, this is probably my favorite Batman movie.
Alright, dude, if you value our opinions and all, and by God, if you've listened to the podcast, you've heard me talk about Batman, and if you value my opinion on Batman at all, watch this movie.
I will also say that as much as, we do our spoiler-free review version, because I know other people out there in the world, like me, don't like spoilers. And I know there are people out there who like them even less than I do. There's not much to spoil in this film.
There are, a couple very tiny things that big Batman heads will like seeing that I feel are better to see in the movie first. I guess spoilers. Batman beats the bad guy.
Yeah. My absolute favorite moment regarding spoilers, I'm going to say spoilers now, driving there on the radio, it was a very weirdly Batman-themed drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. A radio show we were listening to, it was just music, but then the DJ's like, hey, have you seen that new The Batman movie? And I turned it off because I'd had movies spoiled for me that casually before.
By the radio announcer, but I never on the way to the movie.
No, but you know what? It's not hard to change the station.
It felt like the universe was trying to catch you.
So
it felt like the Final Destination guy was after you for spoilers.
Hold on, we haven't ruined the Batman for this dumb fuck. Let's get him. But I said, at the time, what is there to really spoil in a Batman movie? Batman wins. Even if there's big story beats, are they going to be something that having knowledge of ruins the movie? Even if, for example, they kill Alfred. And we get to a scene in the movie where Alfred is fucking looking through the mail and he's like, what's this, Gov? Obvious car bombs, Kyle. Just envelope fireproof, about to blow up in me face. Oh, Gov! And I'm like, I was just guessing.
Spoilers, Alfred lives. So this, now, don't get me wrong, I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I got problems.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I was a little on.
But we're mostly going to be focusing on the good here. The stuff we really liked about the film, chiefly, before we even get into the plot, I want to talk tone. I want to talk theming. And I want to talk about how this movie looks like fucking Gotham.
It hit three major important Batman beats that I haven't seen hit in a long time, if ever, in a movie. Those being the look of Gotham, like you said, Gotham is a fucking character. You listen to anybody talk about Batman who has more than a passing knowledge of Batman.
They will talk about Gotham as part of the Rogues Gallery.
They will at least regurgitate that from someone smarter. Like
me.
At least, yeah, and myself.
I'm not the smarter person, to be clear. I'm the regurgitating person in this analogy.
So, like, to see so many films that get it just wrong enough, and this one to hit it so well.
Found out later they filmed in Glasgow, so great job, Glasgow, at looking like a hellhole.
There were some other shots all over the fucking shop, but yeah, Glasgow is the biggest one. Thing 2, the opening with the narration.
It really sells you a bill of goods. This movie doesn't bury the lead. This movie makes sure you know what kind of movie it is. It opens, it's a noir detective movie. First and fucking foremost. And it opens with a fucking The Dame Wore Red style narration about Gotham City. Like, it's good. It's good eats. It's me, Gordon Ramsay, finally some good fucking food.
The third thing it nails, and this is kind of what we're overall talking about in general, is the tone of a certain kind of Batman. Now, there are very many different kinds.
There are many Batman.
Yes.
Beyond just there being multiple people under the cowl, in terms of just Batman's stories, he covers a lot of different sort of subgenres in superherodom. And the one type of Batman movie that we really haven't seen much of in live action is a detective story. About the closest you got was during The Dark Knight. There were some little bits of him, like, using very, very high-tech gadgets to figure out a mystery. But, like, this Batman is fucking boots on the ground, might as well be wearing a tan coat, and fucking smoking a cigarette detective.
And I like that, because it's something you would see in the comics a lot. That big opening scene, which we didn't really see trailers for this, I don't think.
I saw one teaser.
I think at some point they played the entire opening scene as a trailer. I might be wrong.
Yeah, they played him beating the shit out of those street toughs.
Okay. I thought the opening detective scene, I should say, is Batman from the era of comics that I read the most, and thus, as you might assume, the one I enjoy the most. The late 80s, early 90s, before Nightfall, and a little bit after, where he is, you know, this monster, this back to being the dark protector of Gotham, who is the detective, who is utterly silent while he's going over evidence and talking only to Gordon, and, you know, being this ominous figure in a room of cops, regular cops.
And I like it because we've seen a lot of other Batman in movies. We've seen the Batman from the Justice League, and I mean the good one, the Zack Snyder one.
We've seen the other one too.
Yes, I haven't, and I'm never gonna. But we've seen that guy, you know, the very much, you know, fighting a global fight. He has fucking flying planes, and he makes fucking super gadgets Batman. We've seen the Dark Knight trilogy, and to a lesser extent, I mean that in that they are less good. The original, like, Keaton and fucking Kilmer and fucking Clooney Batman movies. The big, bombastic, like, very, how to put this, together Batman. A guy who really knows his shit. He kind of has a tool for every job. He doesn't really fuck around much, and he doesn't fuck up basically ever.
The original Batman quartet ran the gamut from something a bit more composed than this to bordering on full four-color.
Yeah, and we've seen all that. This is about as this is noir. It's less earnest. It's less stripped down than the Dark Knight trilogy. The Dark Knight trilogy got bombastic near the end, but it was mostly Batman by way of Heat. So this is much closer to like an actual, to, like you said, like that exact era of comics, where he was just a guy who catches fucking serial killers, man, and they're not nice.
Yeah. I think, honestly, the grittiest thing about this film, in terms of, like, a cynical grittiness, is maybe the interpretation of the Riddler. But even then, it's very superficial.
This Riddler is one of the things I got problems with in this movie, if I'm being completely honest. That's not who I want out of my Edward Nygma, Edward Nashton, whatever you want to call him. But I'm not going to say it's invalid. It's just not my preference. I think they did a great job with what they were aiming for.
Yeah. And I think it's a difficult position, because if you want to do something like this, to make a very detective movie with the guy who's perfect to antagonize a detective, who in the Riddler, someone who leaves the trail of clues.
Like, the Riddler I prefer would have stuck out. He would have fucking ruined this movie.
He would have been visiting from another film.
He would have been tonally so wrong. They made the right choice for the tone they were going for.
And I liked the approach to the character and his ethos overall. It was an interesting take on the Riddler.
Corruption is endemic. The rich control the world. I'm going to slit an orphan's throat about it.
Well, and in that sense, you see a lot of people, both online and less so in real life, who fall into line with this skewed philosophy that makes sense to them, but is not really the way the world works. Even if it's right about A, B, and C, there's still X, Y, and Z that they're just ignoring for the sake of their...
They have a worldview, and they utilize whatever tools necessary to make the facts fit it.
Yes. Fantastic way to summarize what I was trying to say. And you see it. I see it. And I'm trying not to be on the internet that much, so I'm sure you
absolutely.
see it.
Yeah. Look, this version of the Riddler tells a very... For being a movie that at times feels like a period piece, despite being set clearly in the modern day, this movie tells a very modern story about social isolation and toxic experience on the internet causing problems.
Sure, yeah. And it's not a tale they haven't done before in Batman fiction.
No, absolutely not at all. I think it might be the first time we've seen this sort of narrative in a Batman movie.
At least this direct. But I think they do it really well, and I don't know who else they could have used unless they really wanted to go calendar-themed attacks, which they kind of did.
Now, to be fair, this Riddler, that's exactly what I want out of Calendar Man.
Sure, yeah.
I want Calendar Man to be fucking terrifying, because he needs to be terrifying to counteract his stupid gimmick.
But also, you're not going to sell a multi-million-dollar movie on, okay, get this, Batman is fighting Calendar Man. No.
Yeah, we know who Riddler is. Jim Carrey played Riddler. I get it. And, you wanted to use the Zodiac Killer fucking imagery. I get it. I do. It's just... Would it kill him to suit up a little?
I want to be upset with you, but I can't. I liked this interpretation. I'm fine with new interpretations, and I think he will fit in very well. Let me rephrase that. I think a lot of the things I like about more recent Batman comics, within the last 10 years, say, as opposed to the last 40, 50, I think they would fit in this world. Stuff like Professor Pig, Merrymaker, things like that have come about more recently.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
Like, that and maybe some of the really fucking old 40s villains who died.
Yeah.
And have not been back.
But it definitely has room for the incredible Penguin portrayal.
Colin Farrell vanishes into that role. It's not just the makeup. Like, I would not have pegged that as Colin Farrell.
And I really appreciate how the story dealt with the mafia heads, because they've been used in Batman movies recently, but this is the only time I gave a shit.
Well, yeah, because in normal Batman movies, the mafia heads are, at best, Act 1 filler villains.
They're name drops. They're over there. They're a problem that someone who isn't Batman is dealing with.
Or if Batman's dealing with it, he kind of deals with it like you deal with taking out, like, the cat litter.
Right.
It's not a pleasant experience, but I mean, it's not hard.
But they brought it to the forefront here and really made it an important part of the overall arc of the storytelling.
It basically is the story.
Right.
I mean, the Riddler is the villain of the piece, but all of the emotional weight and narrative surrounding Gotham and if Gotham can be saved all basically centers on the mob. And that is so fucking, like, stripped down, bare bones, like Batman Year One, but even simpler.
Yeah. Another villain just popped into my head, and Scarface they could do fantastically.
That's a hard one to do.
It is, but I've seen the short film on the internet, and they could do it.
That's fair.
And take it very seriously, and that's awesome. Yeah, I just the weight of everything that happens. I've seen a lot of people describe it as more of a thriller, a crime thriller. And
Yeah.
it really has that sort of intensity. I don't know that I was, and I suppose this is a detraction, I wasn't on the edge of my seat. This movie didn't hit me like Solo. You know, I didn't come home and go, man, what an experience. It was more just, yes, I have seen quality movies in my time, and that, sir, is one of them. It did the source material justice, and in and of itself, it was an interesting film to watch.
It took it interesting places. It was very respectful of the material. It was clearly made by someone who likes Batman and had a vision. And I like that.
Yes.
They made some small but very interesting changes to both Batman and Selena Kyle's backstory that I think work really well, actually.
Yeah, those are exactly the kind of things that even with someone this iconic that you can sort of fuck with and tweak to create new opportunities for storytelling.
Yeah, because Batman's been around since fucking the 30s. So if he's going to stick around, we're going to see new stuff. We're going to see new adaptations. I like adaptational work with Batman. I've grown to really love it. Different takes, different versions. And even if they're not always my favorite, I usually am willing to give them a chance. And this version of everything in this movie except specifically Edward Nygma, I really like.
Well, and I believe, I mean, if I might be a little bit black and white about this, it's mostly that he's dressed like a goon.
He's dressed like a hobo and he acts like the Zodiac Killer.
Instead of being like outlandish in both senses, and the sharp, snappy green suits.
A little bit more refined, a
yeah.
little bit more. I only have TV tropes to explain this, but I'll use Marvel stuff instead. The Justin Hammer version of Moriarty.
Yeah.
Where he wants to be that, but he's fucking not, though.
Someone who is over the top and exuberant and
look, this version I don't hate at all. It absolutely fits this movie. It fits this universe, and there is every chance they're gonna give me something closer in a sequel, and I'm willing to accept that.
So while we're talking about stuff that didn't quite hit the mark for us, what are some other things that kind of wasn't quite great about this movie? Let's do the old compliment sandwich. It's a favorite of ours.
Okay, all right. I feel like I can tell it was a clearly intentional choice to have this Bruce Wayne be fucking terrible at pretending to be, or this Batman terrible at pretending to be Bruce Wayne, is a better way of putting it. He isn't good at the Bruce Wayne act. That's clearly an intentional choice that the movie makers made. They're just not doing that. And that's fair. I don't mind it so much, but it's kind of a part of the Batman mythos. It does interesting things for the story. I'm not going to say it's an altogether bad decision. It's sort of bundled in with him just not giving a shit about Wayne Enterprises just at all. Mm-hmm. Which I also wasn't amazingly fond of. But this is clearly a very young, very angry, very headstrong Batman. So it fits. It might not be my favorite thing, but it fits the tone even if I don't like it so much.
By contrast, that was something I did enjoy. I feel like the last few movies, including the Justice League adjacent stuff, have focused really hard on Bruce. We've gotten a lot of Bat Dad or Bruce, who's tired of the game. As you put it, as we were discussing it last night, Batman is Batman. Bruce Wayne is the Mask.
That's a pretty common interpretation.
Is a very good interpretation. It's the one I like, and it's the one that's in this movie. Whereas recently, we've gotten a guy who's somewhere in between.
Yeah, a guy who is Batman and Bruce Wayne are different masks this guy wears.
Right. One to each extreme of his personality, essentially. And that's also fine, but we have been getting it a lot. We've been getting a lot of billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne. And I like fucking basement gremlin Batman.
Yeah, Basement Gremlin Batman, that's the part of this I really love. When he is just doing his detecting and Alfred comes in and he basically turns at him and hisses.
It's good shit. I would say this wasn't my favorite Alfred. I think the writing was fine. I just have a more suave character. Give me a Timothy Dalton.
He's... It's the same problem I have with Riddler. He's not refined enough for
Yeah.
Alfred is supposed to be a Batman's Batman, a gentleman's gentleman. He's supposed to be wearing a fucking three-piece fucking suit or a tuxedo and have a cloche. But I actually, the much more, older British fucking SAS operative Alfred of more modern interpretations, I've never disliked. It is a take. It is not standard. But I don't hate it when it crops up.
I don't hate it. I honestly, all of this writing, everything else, just by a different actor. And I'm not saying that Gollum did a bad performance.
No, Andy Serkis was perfectly serviceable.
He was great. He did the best that he always does.
Yes, he does. He did a great job because he's Andy Serkis and he's good at acting.
Yeah. But if it had been literally a more refined style actor in the same role with the same dialogue, delivering it in their fashion, putting their own personal put into it.
So essentially, you're fine with the character details. You would just like a little bit more RP in the accent, and maybe he could shave.
Yeah, maybe stand up a little straighter. He was even very well dressed. I wanted a little bit more. I want to be able to look at the character and go, oh, that's Alfred.
It just didn't grab that.
Yeah, it just didn't grab me that. He's a fine character. He's great in this movie, great in this universe, and you're absolutely right. I think the interpretation is interesting and healthy for the story of the comics, especially in 2022 when who the fuck has a butler?
Yeah, and I really enjoy it because they actually it carries it forward because Batman doesn't fight like Batman in this movie.
He's not a ninja.
He's not a ninja. He's a guy who a British person taught to fight. He headbutts and punches.
I guess I can make parallels to the Kingsman. I've never seen those films, but I've seen their trailers.
You would want someone who is manners maketh man.
Yes, that is who I want from Alfred. He will beat your ass to death and crack ciphers and infiltrate and whatever else he needs to do, but then he will adjust his tie and wipe a little bit of blood off his vest and move on.
You want that guy, not like old badass fucking. You don't want Jason Statham. You want.
You're right.
You want. I forget the guy who was the main guy in fucking Kingsman. Otherwise, I'd use him here.
I had no idea. but that's basically what I'd say. Any other complaints you have?
Not so much, honestly. I think I had a little more last night after we watched the movie, but they kind of faded.
There's not a lot that are really worth dwelling on.
They're like minor nitpicks.
Yeah, there's a couple of line deliveries where I went, I don't know if we should have gone with that take, but whatever.
Batman does get a little mumbly.
Yeah, I guess the biggest nitpick I have, and it is a nitpick, it's just the biggest one. I don't think a lot of Robert Pattinson's delivery is impactful enough. Sometimes it is, but sometimes he's very wispy, breathy.
He feels it. This again is a young, very angry, and not altogether established Batman.
Sure.
I feel like again, much like him, much like the other intentional choices they made in changing how the character's portrayed. I feel like that was an intentional choice because the times when he does establish the bat voice, and fucking puts on the daddy pants and stands up straight and fucking squares his shoulders, Those are the important moments when he is coming to the fore, when he is becoming Batman.
Sure. And I do like it from a directorial standpoint, because usually when he's very whispery is when he is being more human and more vulnerable. When he's yelling or saying absolutely nothing, which is something else I loved, is the amount of times Batman shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and it should be important to note the amount of times the movie shut the fuck up.
Or let the soundtrack do the talking.
Because I love Marvel movies. I do. But Batman, in the tone of this movie, works really well with just letting the visuals tell the story, like a Marvel comic.
Yeah, this is really one of the best transitions from sequential art to, celluloid or whatever the fuck we use now, .mov.
SD cards?
Yeah. Thumb drives that I've ever seen. Because it really does take those big scenic set pieces and those big black and red title cards and show you the story in the way a comic book would.
So there's not a point when the movie... There are, in fact, several points when the movie makes a very clear decision to not fucking explain to you what is going on. There is no character who does exposition about shit that you can see on the screen happening.
There's a moment I'll pick from very near the end of the movie, so again, if you're spoiler sensitive, it's not huge, but there's been a lot of destruction. There is a very large live cable wire dangling above a pool of water in which a bunch of innocent civilians are stuck. Batman says nothing, turns, shoots a grappling hook at it, flies over to it, disconnects it so the wire is no longer live, and falls many feet into the water below, saving the civilians. They don't linger on the, oh my god, is Batman dead? For very long. He gets out, we move along with the movie. No one says anything about why that happened.
No one mentions, that wire's live. There's not a scene where someone tries to stop Batman and goes, oh, you'll die, you can't do it. None of that shit happens. Batman sees a problem, Batman solves the fucking problem. Done.
And that's not the only thing. There are mysteries that they leave for you, the viewer, to solve. There is so much noise in the offbeats.
And look, the very final reveal of Riddler's plan, and this is actually another complaint I have, the final part of Riddler's plan is really fucking stupid. But he's crazy, so it's okay. He's crazier than Eddie usually is, to be honest.
It very quickly, over the course of one scene, goes, oh no, this poor misdirected autistic man, into, oh my god, this crazy fucking piece of shit.
Like, the final part of Riddler's plan is dumb. It works in movie because he's insane, so of course he would come up with this stupid fucking plan. But it's dumb, right? But the part before it, you can figure out. It's very clever, but you can figure it out. The mystery he is fucking breadcrumbing Bruce along through the whole movie. The mystery he's fucking leading Batman around by the nose with. The pieces are there. You can figure it out. That's a very fair mystery.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that's good filmmaking.
Good storytelling. That's exactly what you want out of a novel. Any mystery story, really.
It's just because you might not, but you can.
Yes. And that makes the rewatch all the better, because you can go back and go, oh my god, I didn't know
this is the minimum number of pieces you need to make the connection.
Yeah, and that's so fun. And that's what I miss about a lot of movies, never mind superhero movies, is that rewatchability, that desire to go back and go, yeah, I want to see how this all fit together in the first place. Something else, the one last thing before we move on to more crowing, that I want to nitpick is we were about 2 endings short of Return of the King.
But I like them all, so I don't care.
I did too, and that's the same thing with the Return of the King. It's like, yeah, this is all pretty necessary, but at the same time, I feel like this movie ended half an hour ago, and I'm here for important post-credit scenes, but still, I can probably wrap this. Okay, we still got, all right, I mean, fair enough, but, and it's still not, okay, all right.
Another tiny nitpick. This one I do need to bring up. I recognize the filmmaker has said that he's not married to this. It was just something he added for fun and because it helped give the emotional payoff to the Riddler storyline. But that Joker does not fill me with confidence.
I don't need to see another Joker anytime soon.
Look, I don't hate look, I like Mr. J. I do. But that particular one does not fill me with confidence.
Well, and I have to refer to, ironically, Gollum and Thanos and a number of other characters that were seeded early in film franchises that later on came to be a bit different.
And that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, they kept him very much in silhouette. And
that's good. That, exactly. That's what I'm hoping. But I said that partially to bring this in, to mention this, is once his mask is off, that's Eddie. Like...
Yeah.
That's Edward Nygma. That's Edward Nashton. That's the guy. Once he does away with the fucking Zodiac hobo outfit, yes, good. You got it exactly right. So and I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I like the not so subtle allusions to some folks they were talking about as well. Pay attention to dates. And I like that they went with a different iconography as well.
I just like the Riddler symbol with the little fucking...
Yeah.
I meme on it, but that Zodiac Riddler stuff is it looks cool.
Yeah. It's... If that was like Zaz and underneath all his get-up he had a bunch of, cuts for all of whatever he does. I forget. He wants to fuck Batman, I think is...
I could explain it, but...
I'm memeing. Why don't you explain it in the comments, dear listener? That could have been someone else. Like I said, Calendar Man. That could have been, that character.
But I feel like they went a good way with it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not my favorite. But
I don't want to forget the cat, literally. This is, probably one of my favorite Catwomen.
Oh, it's great. They do interesting things with her backstory that no one usually does. Normally, Selena Kyle's backstory is essentially fucking nothing.
She came out of the Aether one day, fully formed as Catwoman.
At one point, she decided that 1, leather is cool, 2, whips are great, 3, I love cats! And that's about her backstory. This one has a cool backstory that's very tied in with the story of Gotham. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, so I'm not going to go any further. But I also really like this portrayal.
Yeah.
But also it feels like a very young, very starting off Selena Kyle.
Yeah.
Which fits.
I was really happy with it. I was surprised by, Anne Hathaway in the previous Catwoman?
Yeah.
I was surprised by how good she did, and this was even better. So yeah, probably my favorite. I mean, it was still Eartha Kitt, but probably my favorite Catwoman. Very well done. My biggest complaint about a lot of the more iconic female members of Batman's Rogues Gallery is that they are sexy, and that is basically their gimmick. And Catwoman was sexy as a personality trait in addition to everything else about her that was very deep and interesting and well thought out.
Yeah, I entirely agree.
Yeah, that was really, really fun for me. I was really glad to see the character done so well. I had hope from the trailers, and I'm glad to see it got paid off.
For the record, Robert Pattinson continues the Michael Keaton Achievement Award of, I don't know about this, George. Shut up. It's going to be great. And then it is.
Yeah. I mean, I had a nitpick about the Bat voice, but it's just a nitpick. I'm fine.
I mean, he's mostly just talking a little lower.
Yeah.
It's not much.
Well, and it's not like the last fucking 2 Bat voices we've had to deal with. One which was a meme.
And one which was a
it was 1995 Kane. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. And this was just a good ride.
Yeah, it's not going to go down as like my favorite movie of all time or anything,
No.
but boy howdy, it sure was a fun movie. It was just nice to go see a good, well-made Batman movie.
Yeah. I believe Pattinson signed on for 3 movies.
Ooh.
So long as this does well financially, and it has been, we should get some sequels out of that. And I'm looking forward to more Batman playing around in this universe.
Yeah, everything's better when nerds talk about it.